And trust me when I say this, I would love to have a normal, ordinary life. But every single time I built any structure of stability, okay, like wow, now I'm set, like I have my favorite Chinese restaurant around me or something. Some big wave will crash and will send me up on how to travel again. So this is a constant pattern. I think every woman knows at the back of her mind that I would rather, die up on a mountain or something than die of boredom with the house. Over the years, I saw a big transition in the role of men as well, where they started calling me up and saying that I would like to book a trip for my mother or wife. In fact, I remember a guy who called up and said he wants to gift a trip to his wife instead of a diamond ring for the engagement. So many incidents where money was rendered useless. Like, I remember I went to this metro station and I wanted to buy a ticket. And I figured I only have big notes. I only have like $100 or something like that. And I had to just pay a few, whatever, Malaysian ringgits to get the thing. And the vending machine would not accept such big currency notes. And I was stranded because it was night. It was like 10 p.m. or so. And I'm like, I feel safer going back by metro because my hotel was near the metro than taking a cab out in the night in a city I don't know. So even though I had the money, I was in a position where uh, luxury for me was to have access to a metro ticket. Uh, and I did not have the small change to get that. And I knew that anything could happen in 1 second because you can have the most fancy icebreaker ship out there, but ultimately you're just a tiny little vessel on that massive ocean. But at the same time, I felt super, super, super protected. And I figured I had to go through that experience to feel what I felt on that particular day, in that particular moment. So that night on the Drake's Passage, I really felt my maximum connection with my own self. And I felt that raw power of nature and the raw power of the universe. There people went to Everest Space Camp, and for 2 3 days we lost communication because there was an avalanche. So in those situations, I do the best that I can.
What if your greatest life lessons came not from a courtroom, but from the highest mountain or the coldest continent on the earth? What happens when you choose passion over safe and successful career? Hello everyone, welcome back to Stories with Nabanita. I am Nabanita, your host on this channel, wherein I do post interviews of founders, industry leaders, and authors. If you are new to my channel, then this might be the universe that has brought you here, because I share life changing stories from people who have faced struggles but have achieved success at the same time. I share their struggle, their setbacks, failures, and achievements. So, if you are here, don't leave without subscribing and hitting the bell icon. If you are already a part of my YouTube family, then thank you so very much for your love and support, as that motivates me a lot to come up with new videos every time. She is none other than Piya Bose, a corporate lawyer turned entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, founder of Girls on the Go and Cave of Plateau. She has inspired countless people through travel, thought provoking conversations, and the courage to live life on her own terms. So, without any further ado, let's dive into her incredible journey. And for that, let me take you inside my studio where Pia is waiting for us. Hello, Pia. Welcome to Stories with Nabanita. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation to be a guest on my show. So, how are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Nabanita. Hello, and from a very, very sunny Mumbai. I'm actually melting here in the heat, and I've put on like, my makeup and all and hoping it stays. But I'm all set up for like a very
It would.
exciting conversation.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we are here and we are going to I'm going to ask you many interesting and uncovered questions about your aspirations in life and your achievements and success challenges, etc. So we are here today to talk about two of your brands. One is Girls on the Go, and the other one is Cave of Plato. The name is very interesting. We'll talk about it in the coming time. And you yourself have been a solo traveler for many years now, right? So I have many interesting things to know from you. There are a lot of things that are popping up in my mind right now. So when we travel solo, there are many aspects. It seems when we hear about it, it seems very energetic and something very funny and etc. But I personally believe that there are challenges also, especially when a girl travels solo. So we will definitely get into there. And you have been a polar traveler too. So you have been to Antarctica and you have stayed there and you have life changing experiences coming from there. So I am really excited to uncover the chapters of your life and asking you such interesting questions. So I hope you are ready to answer them.
Yes, absolutely. I'm actually really looking forward to sharing some of my more sort of uncharted mental landscape of, the journey that I've been on for all these years since 2008. So, yeah, I'm excited and looking to see what comes up.
Something good, something positive, definitely.
Definitely.
And on that note, I would first like to know that when you studied, you have a law background. As a student, you have pursued law,
Yeah.
right? So while studying, what is it that inspired you to move towards travel and that to solo travel? Like, what is the reason behind it?
Yeah. I would reframe that. I wouldn't say during my studies I was looking to get into travel. Very frankly speaking, I mean, it was not anywhere in my realm of imagination that after 5 years of, intensive law school, I would take a completely different chapter. But I would put it this way that
Okay.
before I started my journey as a law student, uh, I
Mhm.
had actually gone for this solo trip to South America when I was 16
Mhm.
years of age. It was a Rotary exchange program.
Okay.
And now that I kind of join the dots back, I think that is what set the foundation. Because
Mhm.
for me to, I was a small town girl, and for me to start traveling at such a early age, on my own, um, somewhere it really expanded my worldview. I don't think I mean, I didn't realize it then that I don't think I could have fit into any definitions or any set, you know, structures for me. Somewhere I was pushed right then to create these
Mhm.
new neural pathways to, do something uh, on my own and
Yeah.
explore life on my own terms. I think that is the line that I would
Mhm.
say. So it's not like while I was a law student, I was thinking of starting my uh,
No.
career in travel. In fact, it was absolutely unthinkable because the kind of salaries that a corporate lawyer actually
Mhm.
earns. And I started my
Mhm.
journey in the traditional way with a law firm, and I'm grateful for the entire journey. It gave me a great perspective. Uh,
Mhm.
it's only after I got into the corporate world that slowly it dawned on me, and a set of incidents happened which kind of pushed me into the uncharted terrain because
Mhm.
I was I was all set, all geared for the corporate career. It's not like I was looking to, jump the lane or something. So I figured that
Mhm.
this is the path that was meant for me. This is the journey that I had to walk on. And it's almost like I was just a character in a book that was meant to unfold in a certain way. So,
Mhm.
so a series of things happened which led me from one thing to another. And before I knew it, I was on the uncharted terrain. And my first trip was actually after I, transitioned from my legal career. I actually went to Lucknow, and then that led me to go to Nepal and then Tibet. And that's a story which led to me starting Girls on the Go. So, yeah.
Right. So yeah, and as you have been like studying law, law is something that
Mhm.
demands any stuff, any subject would, but when it comes to law, it demands a lot of attention, a lot of concentration because you have to study all the sections and everything. So
Absolutely.
while studying,
Yeah.
it's very difficult for anyone to
Mhm.
like do something else,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Uh,
I mean, I have to say that the reason I was able to start off on my entrepreneurial journey with the kind of confidence that I was able to is because those 5 years of being a law student and studying from some of the best teachers and having some of the best mentors in that space. I even did some international internships. So that gave me like a great perspective. So my attention to detail, my attention to look out for loopholes, my mind was already like looking out for the worst case scenario because a lot of any business is also about contracts and getting the whole thing right. And this was at a time when nobody was talking about startups. Nobody was talking of entrepreneurship. Uh, Facebook was just getting into the scene. It
yes,
wasn't even
yes,
there.
that's right.
So I remember using Orkut, which
Orkut,
was
yes, absolutely.
it was a
Yeah.
dating social. I mean, dating site.
Uh,
I mean, even social
but
media
people
was
used to use it like
yeah.
not only for dating but as a social media
Yeah.
platform.
So even initially, like I was like, how do I even get the word out? And I'm like, why not use this platform to get the word out to many women? So I actually used a dating site to reach out to women to get my first clients. So
This is also an interesting
yeah,
story.
it's an interesting
Yeah,
story.
how
Yeah, I'm not
uh,
sure that's not what the makers of Orbit had in mind, but it just showed me the power of social media before social media actually became like a full-fledged business
uh,
model. And
yes,
today, social media is absolutely unrecognizable from that era,
yes,
of course. But
yeah,
that's how I
it is a
started off.
must right now when
Yeah,
we
yeah,
talk about social media.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, so it was good for me to see the whole spectrum of evolution of my own business parallelly as social media was also progressing. Like for me, the timing, the era when I started, I would say it's almost like almost like a very very long time right now. So starting my business in the same era where social media was also setting its, I mean, becoming something like it was becoming a way of doing business. Like I remember initially people were even a little doubtful of whether they can do, e-commerce or even transfer money to me electronically. But I also was surprised to see how women were actually overcoming their own mental barriers because somewhere they were trusting the objective with which I had come into the space to actually offer women, empowerment through travel. And there were people who were transferring, payments to me from all over the country. So for me to have women put their faith in me at a time when people were still skeptical about e-commerce and like there was nothing like wallets and e-wallets and all of that. It was, it's only now. So for me, I think that was the biggest satisfaction that I had, that for somebody who's not from the travel industry. And I told people clearly at the very beginning that, listen, I'm not a travel industry professional. I am a lawyer by profession, but I have been solo traveling and I have the confidence of taking it up. So I feel it was just the honesty and the truth of the mission that I was putting in front of them. That itself made women, take the next step and make Girls on the Go whatever it is today. So big credit to every single person who trusted me in this journey. Yeah,
So a lot of gratitude, and that has
absolutely.
to be there to excel. So Pia, it's not easy and you have taken unconventional paths, right? So it was challenging, and how did you overcome this challenge?
So, yes, there have been many challenges. Like the first challenge itself was like figuring out that, the traditional corporate path was not my path. And and I was really young when I was in that space, and for me it was a very very big leap of faith. So I actually sort of quit my job without having a backup plan. So it's not like I had something to kind of fall back on or someone to fall back on.
Mhm.
And I just knew, I just did what came to me very naturally. And I'm like, look, uh, I mean, the good thing at being rock bottom is that you really have nothing to lose. So I'm like,
That's
I
right.
have nothing to lose. And it's a fantastic place to me. It's not like I have millions of dollars sitting in, some offshore account, or I have like some huge reputation to protect. So I think that's the beauty of being at rock bottom. You cannot cannot go any lower. It's only going up from there. And I just
Right.
decided, like I mentioned, that I went on to this impromptu solo trip to from
Mm-hmm.
Lucknow to Nepal to Tibet. And being in a country which is not uh, politically independent was a very, very big sort of uh, eye opener for me. And it made me realize that I have something very important, which is free will, which people in Tibet did not have. So I can actually start anything that I want to. Uh, and there's nobody stopping me unless and until, of course, it's something which is not legal or something. But I can actually use my free will to do whatever it is that I want to do in life. So when I came back to Mumbai, I mean, whatever little savings I had also, I had spent on the trip. So I'm like, listen, I want to start a business. And the next challenge which came up is everybody was like, oh, you cannot start a business because you need a lot of money for it and all. I said, I get you guys because that is the traditional format. But I am feeling a very strong calling to see if there is a way that, the problem of money can be overcome. Because if you even look at the factors of production in economics, in traditional economics, nowhere is money mentioned. It's land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So capital is not only money. There is no mention of money. I mean, of course, money is a small subset of capital. But I'm like, there is so many other things which is part of capital. There is time, there is skill, there is innovation, there is the social aspect of things, which is being talked about now in this decade or this era as we're talking more
Exactly.
about startups.
Even having the energy of
The
doing a
energy.
thing,
Yeah. Also,
without knowing what is going to happen.
exactly. So some people even were like, why don't you join some other company and all? And I did go through that
Ah.
whole thing. I did apply for other interviews and I got selected, this and that. I even
Mhm.
dabbled in other sectors for some time. I was working with a gelato company as their sort of the advisor for some time. So I've done a bunch of other interesting stuff. I was also parallelly travel writing for well-known publications all throughout this journey as a freelancer. So all that was also happening. It's not like suddenly one day it happened. There is a step and a process that I had to go through, and I just kept my attention on one thing, that at this point, what can I do which makes me feel happy and which gives me the freedom and the creative freedom to live life the way I want to. So whether it came from me writing a travel article for a publication, or whether it came from me working with a gelato company, I was just doing it. So my one tip to anybody who's going through any difficult situation or any challenging situation, especially on the work front, is that just dive in somewhere. The currents of
Mm.
life will eventually take you to where you're meant to be anyway. Like if somebody
Mm.
would have told me back in law school that, oh, you're going to start a women's travel club, I would have laughed at it. But the process will take you where it is going to take you. We just have to just figure out what is not working and do whatever it is working for us at that time, at that point of time. Like, even if it is, starting a small cafe or, taking up art, whatever it is. So eventually we'll figure the path out. So to answer your question of how did I overcome my challenges, there have been many kind of challenges, but uh, for every single challenge, this has been my rule that at this micro moment, what is the easiest and the simplest thing that I can do, which lets me keep my creative freedom and just helps me to, stay happy in my own little micro world. And then automatically solutions crop up. So that's been my way of overcoming challenges. That's one aspect of it. And of course, there have been times where I've had to take some very, very hard decisions in business as an entrepreneur. There have always been those times. And I think that's when some of my legal background has also helped, where having a very broad understanding of how structures work, how corporates work, how to always at the back of my mind look out for loopholes, look out for what can go wrong, always assess the worst case scenario. Because especially with travel, most people were like, "Oh, you're living the fun life and the glamorous life and traveling here and there." I said, "Of course, I'm doing that." But it's because back of my mind, I'm always assessing what can go wrong. What is the worst case scenario? And I'm always we've sent clients to so many uh, parts of the world, right? So things can go wrong. Like, there people went to Everest Base Camp, and for 2 3 days we lost communication because there was an avalanche. So in those situations, I do the best that I can in my capacity as a travel provider. But I know that the final solution, like my clients coming out of tricky situations, like whether it's a political situation or a weather situation, there is a invisible force at play, right? So somewhere, and that's taken some load off my mind. Otherwise, it's difficult to be in a business where you're dealing with so many unknowns on a daily basis. So somewhere it has deepened my faith that, listen, you are a very small part of the larger, chain of things. All that I need to do is to get up, turn up, and do the work that I have to go do. Things definitely could go wrong, but somewhere I believe that this work is protected. This work has, you know, uh, it is an important part of the universal scheme of things. And even if there is an issue, uh, solutions will come. And I will talk a little bit about it maybe towards the end of the conversation about a book which I'm writing, uh, which we'll come to, which is exactly on this theme. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So it's been many tiered basically in terms of dealing with challenges or situations. Like, a bit of it is my own intuition, a bit of it is my legal training, some of it is, of course, uh, the protection that people receive from the universe. It's it's been a work in, I mean, it's a skill that I have also developed over the years. Like, even before I absolutely experience. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So which is why, like, if I absolutely, because I've done a lot of tricky terrain, like from Antarctica to Mongolia to, Reunion Island, like we sent clients climbing a volcano. I mean, the number of uh, situations into which clients have gone, and I'm doing it because women want these things, right? So somewhere also, women are also great risk takers, I must say. I mean, I do not mean to put men down in any way, but what I'm seeing, and the reason why a concept like a women's travel club is flourishing, because women are fantastic risk takers, and sometimes even I am stunned with the kind of risks that women want to take in terms of their travel. So, of course, if I find that there is there's a certain risk that is unnecessary, they should not take, I definitely advise them against it. But I feel that unless and until one takes a certain measured risk, one is not going to experience life to its
That's right.
fullest.
That's right.
So one has to put
Yeah.
themselves into different situations to experience life. But like I said, that also the reason I've been able to also learn how to deal with these risks and challenges is also because of the mindset of my my women clients, because they are coming into this fully well knowing, because we do the orientations and all also, they also know what exactly the experience entails, and sometimes they like give us more, you know. So to be,
That's right.
it's my privilege to have worked with women like that. Like, I remember
Mm.
there was a lady, that was one time I was nervous. She was like 85 to 90, like that age group, and she went to Arctic Circle for Northern Lights in the winter. Okay.
That's
I freaked out. I'm like,
mm.
I just hope she comes back the way she's
Ah.
going. And I almost refused the trip. But her son told me, he was booking the trip. He's like, listen, it's on me. Like, it's on me and obviously on her. She's like, you don't know my mother. Do not judge a book by the cover. She might look like this really thin and, really sort of fragile woman, but she has guts. He's like, please arrange this trip for her because this is on her bucket list. Trust me, she'll be fine. So I'm like, okay, the son is so confident about the mother going for this trip. Who am I to, stop her?
Yeah.
She went
Mm.
and she did everything from husky sledge ride to, doing all the, Arctic expeditions and all at 90, almost 90. She did everything in the winter and she came back. I'm like, if I'm dealing with these women, I'm like, I'm speechless after a point. So they
That's
make
right.
me come out of my own mental limitations of what I think is possible. So
Most of the times it's the mental limitation only.
it is a
Other
mental
things
limitation.
fall into place. If you
Exactly.
are mentally free
Yeah,
and you are okay to face the kind of challenge, you know
absolutely.
what is going to come up,
Absolutely.
then no challenge is a challenge.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So the
Yeah.
best that I do in such situations is I work with the best suppliers or the best operators in the business. Because I'm like, from my end, I'm giving you the best in terms of support, logistical support. Then the rest is up to the, the powers of the universe to make sure it all comes through together. But uh, but yeah, being somebody who's also been on the roads extensively, I understand this need for women to, this this desire or this urge to really experience uh, travel in all its forms. So from my end, whatever I can do to facilitate that, I'm happy to do that.
And I believe women, like as you mentioned while answering to this, that women are the biggest risk takers.
They are.
Like they do
Mm,
not hesitate.
mm.
That is because they deal with a monotonous
True,
lifestyle
true.
most of the time.
Yeah,
And on a daily basis, we women staying inside the home, we face many such challenges,
absolutely.
which tend to be tough to someone else who doesn't know,
Absolutely.
right? Or who don't deal with it. So,
Absolutely.
no, if we can manage the household in this way, then managing outside is way better. Like, we don't have to think about food, we don't have to think about
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
anyone
So
else. We just have to take care
it's
of
true.
ourselves.
It's true.
That makes the thing way more easier for us. Uske baad
Absolutely.
to no challenge is a challenge, I believe. So that
Absolutely.
is why maybe women are the best risk takers, as you said.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
think every woman knows at the back of her mind that I would rather, die up on a mountain or something than die of boredom at the house. Like, it has literally
That's
come
right.
down to
That's
this
right.
because I'm like,
Yes. Now
there's
we are
death by
very lucky.
boredom is a
I
very real
believe
risk.
we are lucky enough that
Mm.
people are talking about it. Even women,
Correct.
not only women, but men are also understanding
So,
this,
yeah, this is
which
a
is
very important point you raise, and I want to address this. So,
mm,
one of the biggest positive things that I have seen in my journey has been the role of men as far as women's travel is concerned. So, when I initially started back in 2008, I remember a lot of women would want to go for trips, but they would call me up and they're like, can you please try and convince my husband? Can you please try and convince my father or brother or son, whatever? So I feel that 60% of my role at that point was actually talking to men to convince them and to orient them to let the women travel because they're like, kaise hoga? So that's when I figured the sort of psychological difference because women were ready to take these challenges, but men, out of their goodwill, I'm not saying because even they haven't seen this side of women. It's only now that more travelers are, becoming more visible. They were like, how is it going to happen? Like, how's my mother going to go to Spain on her own or whatever? But over the years, I saw a big transition in the role of men as well, where they started calling me up and saying that I would like to book a trip for my mother or wife. In fact, I remember a guy who called up and said he wants to gift a trip to his wife instead of a diamond ring for the engagement. Because for him, he was like, she loves traveling, and I think nothing will give her greater joy than me booking like a trip for her. So I would trade the diamond ring for a trip for her. So these incidents have really inspired me also in my journey. And I do think men have a big role to play in this by also encouraging women folk in their own family to, travel independently. And the change has come already. I can see it happening, even in tier two cities. Um, so, it's good to see that that is changing.
And we also have such conversation inside our family, right?
Right.
That where my when till my mother's generation,
Mm,
there was no such concept altogether
mm, mm,
that
mm.
my mother is going somewhere all alone,
Right.
right? Without me or without my
Mm,
father or anyone else in the family.
right. Right.
So it's a nice concept and it's needed. It's
Absolutely.
needed and it has been proved also that
Yes.
it has given a huge mental support and boost to women.
True. And on that note, I'd also like to add something very important and significant. So, I have come across records of women travelers
Mhm.
who have been traveling independently pre independence. So, what you see today, the trickle has started long time back. But
Okay.
we have only been given one narrative that women always stayed at home and they were repressed and suppressed, which is the larger narrative. There is no doubt.
That's larger narrative.
But
Whatever
there
we have
was
seen.
there
Mhm.
was a series of women, and a lot of them, by the way, were from Calcutta. And I'm saying that because you're from Calcutta, and I'm also Bengali, and I'm proud to be that. But there is a lady. She's an author. She also lives there. She has documented. She's translated works from Bengali magazines of
Mhm.
women who have been traveling uh, before women's travel clubs in India came into the scene, like almost close to the independence era, like around that time. And there has also been records of women from Gujarat, from who traveled by. So these were women who actually traveled by ship mostly. They went abroad, uh, sometimes to meet relatives or whatever, but they traveled alone. So, like this one lady who traveled alone. She was from Gujarat, but she traveled from Mumbai on a ship. She actually talked of how she was wearing a sari and she did not know English. And she was sleeping on bunk beds in the ship. And she has documented in her diary about her entire experience. So, what I mean to say is that the history of women's travel that needs to be really tracked down because there have been women, of course, a trickle, who have been traveling independently for a very long time. So, I mean, what I mean to say is that the history itself can actually shift if we can, you know, account for these women who were already changing the narrative.
So, Pia, out of everything that you have done, starting from the base camp on Everest and Antarctica, what uh, meant to be as your biggest achievement and why?
So, it's a very difficult question to answer because every country has offered a different sort of
Huh,
lens for my trip. Uh,
huh,
I'll have to take a second to figure out because I did mention about Tibet. That was definitely one of my most eye opening trips in that sense, because that was a country where I traveled, which was not politically independent. And I think everybody living in a politically independent country needs to see the lives of people, in countries where democracy, fundamental rights literally don't exist, to understand what we have in a free country and what our ancestors have literally given their lives to ensure that we have. So, if I have to pick one country in terms of a major perspective shift, it will definitely be Tibet. And also the fact that that was also the country which inspired me to really uh, like start with my journey of Girls on the Go eventually. Like it made me completely see life very differently because um, I went to this village from where I could see the Everest. I didn't go up to the base camp, but I could see the Everest from the Everest peak from this village. And just looking at the peak of Everest eye to eye, I don't think one can ever become the same person, like remain the same person. So I just decided at that point that, I mean, whatever it is, like, just do not do anything that you're not comfortable with and just keep scaling higher to see, uh, where one can go in life and just make sure that you're always happy doing what you're doing. Because I was like, Tibet was two things for me. One, I was seeing all this oppression by the Chinese. Like, I remember this one incident where I was standing in the immigration line, and there was one line of foreign tourists like me, and the other line was of Tibetan immigrants. And next to that was a whole line of Chinese soldiers who were marching up and down with rifles on their shoulders and shouting slogans. And I saw certain incidents happen there. Uh, which were absolutely unexpected, where I could see that, you know, uh, I mean, you could immediately feel that you're not in a free country at all. And it was quite shocking for me to see those incidents. And it just reminded me of everything that I have. Suddenly, I'm like, oh my God, I have all these gifts. I didn't even realize that I have so much of freedom to do so many things that I really want to do. So, to have this contrast of being in this absolutely gorgeous, beautiful country, you're surrounded by mountains and ice, whatever beautiful. Uh, there was a Brahmaputra river flowing with me all the way right up to Lhasa. It was emerald green. When you see the Brahmaputra in Tibet, it's emerald green in color. And by the time it comes to India, it's a different color. So, so just to be surrounded by that kind of beauty, but at the same time, to be surrounded by so much of oppression and seeing firsthand what goes on in a non-independent country, it just gave me the exact perspective shift I needed uh, to realize that uh, make the maximum use of the gifts that one has. Like if you do have the golden ticket to existence, don't waste it. Basically, so yeah. So today,
Yeah, so yes, even like as you mentioned, that the freedom that we have in
hmm,
being living in a democratic country
hmm,
is a blessing in itself.
absolutely, absolutely. And besides Tibet, of course, there are many other countries. I mean, and if I'm allowed to mention one more place, I think for me
Please.
that would definitely be Antarctica, because while Tibet opened up my perceptions externally to the world, for me
Hmm.
Antarctica would really help to connect with myself at a very deep, at a very very spiritual level, because it's not only about going to a place where there's ice and penguins and it's beautiful, of course, but the whole process of how this journey actually shaped up for me. Uh, I was made to go through so many trials, all set tests by the universe, and I'm actually also writing something about that. I mean, it just really made me surrender to the forces of the universe. And I remember this one time when we were crossing the Drake's Passage and it was night time and I was alone in my cabin. And I remember that the waves in Drake's Passage can go up to 40 feet, and it was one of the more choppy nights on the Drake. And oh my God, I have never been tossed and turned around in so many different directions at one point of time as I was that night. And it was scary for me. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Should I even have come? Like all these questions came. But after a point, I was pushed to total surrender. And what I experienced that night, while everything had fallen off the table, and I was like, it was like full, like, I, I didn't know what was going on. Like it was massively choppy. But in the middle of that churn, I could feel a very deep connection with the quantum powers of the universe. And I knew that anything could happen in 1 second because you can have the most fancy icebreaker ship out there. But ultimately, you're just a tiny little vessel on that massive ocean. But at the same time, I felt super, super, super protected. And I figured I had to go through that experience to feel what I felt on that particular day, in that particular moment. So that night on the Drake's Passage, I really felt my maximum connection with my own self. And I felt that raw power of nature and the raw power of the universe. So that that has definitely left an impression on me.
Yeah, so when you talk about or when you share your experience, you relive that moment
And
again.
yes,
So it gives you that power or that sensation again, like you something or the other again gets sparked inside you.
yes,
So and that makes you more happy that I
Mhm.
did it, or I have went through it, or I have experienced it.
Right.
So yes, so listening to you, it was like whatever you can say. I was also trying to visualize about the churns, the turns, and the challenge, like the thing that you experienced,
Mm.
maybe a little part of it, but yes, a part of it.
Right. And there is
Yeah.
something interesting that I just want to mention. Like,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I've been asked this question a lot of times that why do you go to these places in the first place? Like,
Huh, huh.
why don't you just, enjoy the normal life? Like, just
Traditional travel,
as in
yes.
not
Huh,
not just tradition. Like, why don't you enjoy the comforts of life and
uh-huh.
live a more comfortable life? What is the need to kind of go off to like some expedition cruise or to go up to some mountain? Like,
Hmm,
what is it? And I guess the impression people have with me is like she's like this wild travel person or whatever. But the
huh,
truth is actually deeper, and I think this is a situation a lot of people who find themselves travelers on the road face.
hmm,
It's a
hmm.
duality. Like
Right.
I am also somebody who's very sort of uh, who loves being at home with family, enjoying my cup of chai with friends, playing with my
Hmm,
nephew. So I have a
hmm,
very, very grounded side of me. And trust
hmm,
me when I say this, I would love to have a normal, ordinary life.
hmm,
But every single time I built any structure of stability, okay, like wow, now I'm set, like I have my favorite Chinese restaurant around me or something. Some
hmm,
big wave will crash and will send me up on how to travel again. So this is a
hmm,
constant pattern. And I think whatever discovery of personal truths that I'm on, it has been at this tug of war between of these two dualities of me
right.
wanting to live the comfortable life and not wanting to be that wild traveler. And then suddenly I'm this wild traveler and doing these things. So there is a constant sort of duality that I face. And it's at the tug of war between these two opposing forces that I found many answers towards to my own self.
That means you are meant to do this. Universe has sent you to do this.
I I mean, frankly speaking, like earlier I would even question something like this. But the more deeply I'm interacting with the universe through my travels. For me, travel is just a tool that I'm using to
That's
investigate more deeply into the workings of the universe. The more I'm convinced that I'm meant to be on this path. Like, I'm like, if I wasn't meant to be on this path, there's no way this would have happened. Because there is something which is protecting me also, right? When I'm doing these 2.5 months of solo travel on the road, I was in Southeast Asia last year, traveling in Borneo, Malaysian Borneo, Indonesia. It's not easy.
no,
I have
it's
to
not.
compromise on so many comforts and so many things. But of course, the trade off is that I see like amazing things and I wouldn't compromise. But it's not
Mm,
everybody's cup of tea. And uh,
mm,
every person has their own journey kind of cut out for them. And I feel that, and I am a firm believer of this, that it's not we who choose the destination. It is the destination that definitely chooses us. This I have seen.
that's
I
right.
mean, I could be planning for a particular destination for a very long time. If
Mm,
the calling is not there, is not. And the
mm,
most unexpected destination might just come up. So I do feel places actually attract
mm,
the travelers.
mm.
So yeah, whenever you're meant to be somewhere, you're going to be there.
You would be.
Yeah,
Like you have talked about many of your experiences, right? And the second baby of yours, that is cave of Plateau, to be correct, the correct one. So why did you feel the need of starting with cave of Plato? So what is the story behind that?
right. So in the year 2014, actually, that was a
Mm-hmm.
very transformative year for me because within a span of 3 months, I ended up going to two extreme ends of the planet. One was to Antarctica, and the other one was to Greenland, where I crossed the Arctic Circle. And I think
Okay.
seeing two extreme ends of the world in such a short time, it really forced me to come to this edge of the known world. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I found myself in a position where the current reality that I
Mm-hmm.
called my current reality was making no more sense to me. And it was also a very isolating period for me because I used to go, for parties or just normal social conversations. And I could
Mm-hmm.
figure that we were not talking of what we should be talking about, not really questioning the mechanics of the universe, not questioning the reality. Like we've just accepted reality as we have been given. Whereas my experience showed that there is so much more to the universe than what meets the eye. And
Mm-hmm.
again, a series of very interesting things happened, which led me to starting this group called Cave of Plato, which is basically to get people to question their current reality. And I took it another step further. So it's basically a forum where people can question their own reality in an age of simulated realities, because we are living in the age of artificial intelligence. So we have a whole bunch of conversations, which is at the intersection of artificial intelligence and philosophy. Because to
Gotcha.
really understand what we are going through in our uh, the current age of AI, because all our lives have been completely rewritten, somewhere we
Mm-hmm.
have to uh, refer to the ancient philosophical texts both in India and also Western philosophies. The word cave of Plato is actually quite interesting because it comes from the philosopher Plato's book The Republic, where
Mm-hmm.
there's an allegory there called Plato's cave, and this is the one on which the movie Matrix has also been made,
Gotcha.
where he
Uh-huh.
pushes people to question what is their reality. And I think this is the most important thing each of us needs to do today. This is not something that someone with $1 million business in Silicon Valley only needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, also just to put it into context, when I was studying as a lawyer, I've also got a background in cyber laws and
Mm-hmm.
intellectual property laws as well. So I have also seen the whole evolution from cyber laws to now, artificial intelligence, and now the new laws that hopefully will come up in that space. So I also have a little technical background also on this. So what I figure is that all of my, whether it's, all of my travels has actually pushed me to question the unknown question the
Mhm.
uncharted. And that is
Right.
exactly what we will have to do right now with artificial intelligence, because it is the wild, wild west out there. It's absolutely uncharted. Not a single person knows what's actually going on. They have figured out
Mhm.
the business application part without
Uh-huh.
actually
Right.
knowing what it's like, 10 blind men trying to understand what an elephant is, right?
Uh-huh.
So it was like all of these various things which led me to start this group called
Cave of
Cave of Late. And it's been an interesting journey where we're trying to get together the common man. We organize interesting workshops and meetups where we get the common man to have these conversations, where each person is exploring their own reality, but in the larger framework of the digital age that we are living in. And, we talk of interesting topics like post-humanism and what is the future evolution of man going to look like as we are going to be parallelly evolving alongside with robots. So we are going to have like biodigital evolution. Now these
Mhm.
and there could even be questions that we haven't even asked yet. So basically to connect the dots, it's like when I'm standing at literally like the edge of the known world in
Mhm.
Antarctica, Greenland, like these places, the internal transformation that I have gone through is something that is impossible to even explain. Because
That's it.
once I mean, standing there, you're pushed to, eh, ask questions that haven't even been asked before.
That's it.
So that is what, was my internal framework, which
Mhm.
pushed me to now start asking questions in the
Mhm.
uncharted space of AI. So, like, funny way, like I call myself, I'm also Titanic's Jack, where I'm appreciating beauty in the middle of icebergs. And I'm
Mhm.
also like Jack and the Beanstalk's Jack, where I'm trying to kind of, climb up the giant beanstalk of AI, trying to, you know, find answers to uncharted questions. So that's the way I see it. But for sure, the new direction that we're taking as a civilization, we cannot
Mhm.
leave philosophy out of it. If
Yes.
And I think every person, wherever we are, we need to really start exploring our new reality with this lens of philosophy, and the world can actually be a much very different place. Mm.
Okay. So, as I understood that you have been into law, then travel, then now AI,
Mhm.
and maybe something else in the coming years. So, what is it that you understand about life, which you are like is there inside you, and you are going to carry it along for the rest of your life?
I think, again, if I join the dots back, like law, if you take that as a first example, it
Mhm.
is the place where you want to deliver truth, right?
Right.
Like you're exploring the truth in a very different way.
Mhm.
Uh, Even with travel, for me, I have only been on this journey of exploring truths for my own self. Like if you see Mahatma
Mhm.
Gandhi's book, Experiments with Truth,
Mhm.
everybody has to experiment with truth at their own level with
Mhm.
whatever tools that they want to. For me, it was travel.
Mhm.
So, and the same thing is happening with artificial intelligence and Cave of Plato. I want to know my own answers of
Mhm.
what is happening with AI. Like, fine, there is the bookish knowledge and there is the technical knowledge. But to really understand what is happening, we need to explore truths in every scenario for our own self. So, in a sense, we become the research lab. Our
That's right.
mind, we ourselves, we become the research labs, and every single activity we do, it should be an exploration of that truth. So,
That's
to sum it up, I think whichever profession I've been in, or whichever line that I've chosen to pursue, it has been this inherent desire to know
right.
truth on my own terms.
Right.
I will do my own research. I will do my own traveling or do whatever it takes to find answers for my own self. And it has to make sense to me. So yeah. So
That's right. Okay. So, Pia, we are almost at the verge of like completing our conversation. I am really glad that we talked about certain very unconventional topics, but very much needed topics at the same time. So, thank you very much for that. And my the next thing that is popping in my mind right now is luxury and travel. Right. When we travel, we always keep in mind that it should be safety is always the priority, but the very next priority is luxury. Right. So when we put these two terms together, luxury travel, right? What does luxury actually means? Can you explain?
that's a very important question because obviously, as somebody in the travel space,
Mm,
um, I regularly deal with, and I've also stayed at many luxury properties around the world, luxury cruises. So, I mean, when you think of luxury travel, that's the first image that comes to anybody's mind. Like you're on this white sand beach with some fancy water villa or something like that. And yeah, it is luxury, no doubt about that. But there is a difference between looking at luxury as a tourist and as a travel. So, from a tourist perspective, of course, it is the regular understanding of luxury in terms of a great property and all, and it is absolutely fine in its own place.
mm,
But the real definition of luxury actually uh, emerges when one is traveling on the roads for very, very long duration. So for me, I mean, I've had many, many incidents in during my travels, but the last year I was on this 2.5 month trip through Southeast Asia solo. I was
mm,
traveling through Malaysia, Indonesia,
mm,
and there were many incidents that happened only in this trip that deepened my understanding of what is real luxury.
mm,
So I happened to be kind of stranded on my own in Bali when the Operation Sindoor was announced
mm,
in India. And and at that time I was staying in a very fancy resort. Like the whole trip was actually about staying in very fancy properties by the beach, this and that. And suddenly I realized that while it is extremely good to have beautiful properties to stay in, but the emotional luxury for me would have been to actually, sit with family or friends and have a cup of chai. Like, just, I was craving for that. I was craving for the home connection, being surrounded by people I know. That for me was luxury. And I
right.
and I did not have that because it was impossible for me to travel back to India
Mm,
given the political situation at that point of time. So I was forced to stay all alone for some time, really thinking of what luxury really meant for me at that point of time. And I have, I mean, I also remember this other incident where, I was craving for Indian food because I had not had Indian food in a very long time. And while I'm very adaptable to all cuisines, otherwise I obviously can't travel.
mm,
But I remember paying some 750 rupees to the restaurant in my hotel, asking them to make like dal khichdi for me
mm,
because I'm like, sometimes when you really need comfort, the greatest luxury is eating home cooked food exactly the way you want it, which is not an option, when you're traveling because you don't get the exact ingredients and all that. And I
right.
remember showing them on YouTube that this is how you make it and adapt it a little bit here and there. And I'm
Huh,
like, I've never paid 750 for a khichdi in my life, but I'm very happy to do that because this for me is luxury right now.
at that moment, you
Mm.
felt that like you
Exactly.
can connect to your home maybe by that. You feel
Exactly. I needed something tangible to make me
that.
feel
Yes.
comforted in my mind. And there were also many incidents where money was rendered useless.
Mm,
Like, I remember I went to this metro station and I wanted to buy a ticket. And I figured I only have big notes. I only have like $100 or something like that. and I had to just pay a few whatever Malaysian ringgits to
Mm,
get the thing, and the vending machine would not accept such big currency notes,
mm,
and I was stranded because it was night. It was like 10 p.m. or so, and I'm like, I feel safer going back by metro because my hotel was near the metro than taking a cab out in the night in a city I don't know.
mm,
So even though I had the money, I was in a position where uh, luxury for me was to have access to a metro ticket. Uh, and I did not have the small change to get that. And I remember asking a guy who was also buying a ticket for help and asked him if he has change. And he just smiled at me and he said that don't worry, let me buy you the ticket. And I insisted on, paying him something, but he's like, no, it's fine. Like, just keep it. And I was just so, overcome with emotion. I'm like, it is the generosity of an absolute stranger that ensured that I, got home. He also showed me the exact train to take, and it was a very confusing train station. He took me to the place, made sure I got into the train properly. And incidents like this made me realize that the greatest uh, value or the greatest sort of wealth that we really have is in human connection. Then another time I was stranded in I don't know, I get stranded in all kinds of places. In Thailand, I was in Koh Samui, and after dinner I come out onto the road and I see it's completely deserted, and it was just 9 or 9:30 at night. And I had all the money with me, but no cabs were available. And my hotel was a little distance away and on a slightly sort of hilly area. There was no way for me to go back walking at night on my own. I was absolutely not prepared that in a big city there would be no cabs available at 9:30 at night. So I'm like, how do I go back? And the whole road was deserted, and I was in thankfully found this 24/7 medical store, and I was standing in front of that. And then I met this lady, and I asked her for help in terms of how can I go back. And she offered to drop me back to my hotel. And she was in the middle of work shift. She had just come out to get some medicines. She was like, it's okay if my work gets delayed, but I would rather that you reached your hotel safely. And she ensured that she drove me all the way to, my hotel. And in both this incident and the previous one, I did give them some gifts I'd got from India, but they didn't really want it. Like they were just doing it because of the joy of doing
like
it.
they felt like
Yeah,
helping you. So
exactly. So, I mean, again, like this is where I say the mysterious mechanism of the universe, turns up. And I mean, I am writing a book actually right now, which I may have referenced earlier, but I'll just share a little bit. It's basically about talking of exactly this, because I feel a lot of times the reason why people don't travel, especially alone, is because they are scared of being stuck in sticky situations and not knowing what to do. Because even something as small as these things that I've talked about can lead to a chain of situations which can get unsafe or whatever, right? But I want to draw the attention of anybody who's listening to this to exactly this, that every single time there has been a problem like this, where despite your best efforts or without you not realizing it, you're in this sticky situation, there have always been solutions. Yes, it does require us to be open to receiving help from the universe and ask for help if required. But the help has come. There hasn't been a single day where I have been left stranded. I have always gotten back despite the odds. I've all to my hotel. I've always been pulled out of a sticky situation. I mean, I'm not saying this to make people reckless also, because one has to keep their own safety, you know, uh, under their own control. But all that I'm trying to say is that one should not stop traveling because of the fear that what is going to happen. Things are going to happen. Let us take that for granted, that things are going to happen because there are X number of things one is dealing with
there are many
when
factors
traveling,
that are associated.
many
You need
factors.
to know many
Mhm,
technicalities also, as you saw, as you said that no
mhm.
cabs at 9:30. So maybe that is
Exactly.
the reality of that particular city or
Yes.
at that
Yes.
particular season. And
Exactly.
we being travelers for the first time, we don't know that.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
yeah, so these are the things which are like anything of this sort can happen, even if you
Absolutely.
are traveling in groups also,
Yeah.
not in a solo trip. So
Exactly. Even in groups.
challenges would be there,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
dealing with it on a smart note,
Hmm.
on a like and seeking for help, like asking
Yeah.
for help from
I would stress
someone
on that.
you can trust, not from matlab, we have that intuition inside us, whom we can go to, seeing
You
on
know, I'll
someone
tell
on the
you,
road. Hmm.
sometimes the person you have to end up trusting may not be the ideal person that you will end up trusting in a normal situation. I'll just give you
Right.
one last example.
Hmm.
I was in Paris for a night and I had a connecting flight the next day early morning.
Okay.
I was supposed to take a bus from a central location to
Hmm.
go to the airport. And the
Hmm.
bus was like a late night bus.
Hmm.
And I was waiting for the bus, and suddenly I got to know that the buses are not going to be operating from this bus stand anymore. And the only person who was in that bus stand with me was a young Bangladeshi guy. Okay.
Okay.
And the reason I could understand him is because I obviously speak Bengali as well. He was
Hmm.
talking to somebody, and I figured.
Hmm.
And he was the only available person I could ask for help.
Right.
I mean, if I'm obviously in my normal day to day thing, I would not ask a stranger, especially a man, for any sort of help. And going to the next bus stand meant walking through a slightly notorious part of Paris, you
Hmm.
know, and that was the only way because no cabs, nothing was available in that area.
Hmm.
And he's like, listen, I'm going. If you want to come, you can come. And then I had to calculate my odds. I'm like, what are the odds? Like what other choice do I have? So sometimes you're left with no choice but to trust somebody you may not trust in the
Normal.
regular case scenario. Like had it been a woman, I would just not even think twice. But I'm
Right.
like, he's not somebody I would trust in a normal situation, but I'm left with no choice.
Hmm.
And thank God I did go along with him because it was not a very safe area that we had to walk through. And probably there were other, uh, shady characters around, but because I was with him, they did not bother me.
Hmm.
And once I went to the other bus stand, there I get to know that the Paris government has suddenly declared a strike, a transport strike. And I was like, that's it. Now how do I even get to the airport? And I was on a budget trip that time, and I'm like, it's impossible for me to take a cab. I mean, I will if I have to. But
Hmm.
even cabs were not available at that time of the night.
Right.
So suddenly this person was running to a group of people who were talking, and he knew French. And he spoke something to them, and he comes running back to me and says that, come fast with me. These people are sharing a ride to go to the airport in a cab. And I have told them that you will join them. And then he put me into the cab, like literally. And I'm like, I didn't even have words to show my appreciation for him because, it's like I told him thanks, but I'm just looking blankly at his face. I'm like, who's this person? He was a godsend. He's the reason I could walk safely in Paris at night to get to this bus stand. He's the reason I'm getting into a cab to get to the airport. Otherwise, I miss my flight. So I have also been tested on that. Like I said, travel will test us in many ways. It will also test our stereotypes of what we usually consider uh, to be safe or not. And sometimes you have to surrender. It will push us to surrender, and the most unlikely person will give us help. But I also have to add that even while I was talking to him, I had to also use my strategy. I kept talking to him in Bengali, which is my mother tongue and his as well. Kept asking him about his life in Bangladesh and his family to ensure that his mind is, in a certain direction only. So I used my strategy as well because traveling is about survival. It is about, a woman's instinct and strategy. It worked. So I was able to, whatever, get the best positive outcome from the
Uh-huh.
situation. So my parting note on this would be that yes, there will be sticky situations. That is also the charm of travel. Like today, I can tell you this story because of what I have gone through in the past. It becomes a story if you survive that challenge. One has to be open to receiving help, but at the same time, one has to use tact, one has to use strategy and critical thinking to address the situation. But the most important thing is that no matter how challenging a situation is, uh, 99.9% situation, there is going to be help available. It may not even look like help at the first glance, but it is help if one can look at it from a different perspective sometimes. And to have that faith that, the universe does have our back. And there is probably a special God that protects people who are out traveling on their own, on solo trips. So while not definitely no advice to be reckless, but to also have that faith going that there are solutions for any situations that may go wrong. So yeah, to keep the spirit high.
Always. Okay. So on that note, Pia, we are at the verge of like ending our conversation. We'll end up with a rapid fire. So you're ready for it?
Sure.
Okay. Beaches or mountains?
Mountains.
One place that changed you forever.
Tibet. Again.
AI, is it a threat or a blessing?
A blessing.
One belief that you had when you were in your 20s, but you don't believe it anymore.
I used to feel that, one has to leave the life of security to get into an uncharted space like starting your own business or whatever. But I feel right now, especially with all the technology that is available, it is it is possible to keep the safety net going
Mm,
while putting one foot in entrepreneurship and starting something on their own.
right.
Because there is no doubt about the fact that entrepreneurship is like sailing on choppy waters. It does take some time to stabilize. And while I have been like the devilish kind of a person to give it all up and do it, and I would advocate for that when I was younger. But with time, I have also realized the value of security, stability even more
Mm,
because so if one has the option of keeping the security net going while beginning to experiment with entrepreneurship, one should
mm,
opt for that as the first option.
mm. So thank you, Pia. Thank you for giving the time. And I am really hopeful that you achieve all your success in your life, whatever you dream for. And for both of your brands, I wish you all the luck and success. Thank you
Thank you
for
so
coming on the
much.
show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.